Welcome to our June 8th, 2020 regular business board meeting of the Board of School Directors. I'm Melissa Gilbert. I'm president of the board. Welcome. Before we get formally started, I just want to remind everybody, I'm sure this is not new at this point, that due to Governor Wolf's mandates, this meeting is being made public and recorded on Zoom. Public comments are being taken in advance of the meeting as well as during the meeting. If you want to make a public comment, please email, I just want to make sure I get this right, board public comment, no S, board public comment at lmsd.org. And every consideration will be made to read the comments, but it can't be guaranteed. Comments that aren't read will be posted to the agenda the following day. So there are no live comments during this meeting, and all participants are muted, obviously. So when emailing, please state your full name and address within the district for your comment to be read. So at this time, we would like to start the meeting. Just trying to give me 1 second, please. Apologize. Sorry. We would like to start the meeting with a moment of silence in memory of the premature deaths due to white supremacy of George Floyd, Tony McDade, Breonna Taylor, Trayvon Martin, Tamir Rice, Michael Brown, Eric Garner, Orlando Castillo, Sandra Bland, and numerous others whose names are known or not known. So please, we're going to have a moment of silence now. Thank you very much for joining with us on that. And I want to say on behalf of the Board of School Directors of the Lower Merion School District, I want everyone to know that we stand with our youth and other community members to demand an anti-racist agenda be pursued and declare that Black Lives Matter. We need to eradicate white supremacy and heteropatriarchy in all of our institutions, but especially our schools, which is where we have the most power to affect change at the moment. This is and will continue to be the goal of this board, but we need to do better. As a result of the horrifying murder of George Floyd, the racist response of elected officials from the White House to the county courthouse and even in our own buildings, we are proud to see our students at the forefront of demands to end racism and ensure that Black Lives Matter. Yesterday at Vernon Young Memorial Park and Arnold Field, we heard our young people share their trauma. They said they don't feel safe walking our streets. They said they don't feel heard or represented in our schools. This is not acceptable. This must end. We want you to know that we hear you and we want to hear more from you. We are committed to hearing your stories and listening to your voices as we redouble our efforts to pursue an anti-racist agenda in our schools and our wider community. We hired Superintendent Robert Copeland 5 years ago because of his expertise, commitment, and experience in implementing anti-racist educational policies and practices. Under his guidance, we now look at every decision, policy, budget, curriculum, hiring, every decision through an equity lens. This is incredibly important. I want to give you a few examples. Superintendent Copeland came to the board because he had grave concerns about Black and Brown students experiencing disproportionately disciplining. He made it a priority to eliminate the disproportionality in how discipline is meted out by incorporating a focus on restorative justice practices in our schools as a main pillar of the Achievement Imperative Task Force, the action arm of the Committee on Race and Education, or CARE. After the tragic school shooting in Parkland, Florida, Superintendent Copeland created a task force to examine how we really needed to make sure we had security in our schools. That's a very important issue, obviously, for us. Unlike many other school districts, we increased security without having armed police officers in our schools every day. We followed this approach because we did not want to replicate US society's over-policing of Black and Brown students within our buildings. After yesterday's march, a student approached me about her concerns with our police liaison program, in which officers come to each of our schools to meet students occasionally. And we are certainly willing to listen to the concerns of students who wish us to reconsider the program. We are doing many other things. We are reevaluating and redoing the curriculum through an equity lens, professional development, hiring practice, all of this through an equity lens in order to move to eliminate white supremacy in our schools. And this board will not redistrict on the backs of the Ardmore community. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you should look at how every redistricting and school closing in this community going back over 50 years fell on the African American community. It will never happen with this board. This board has also been very vocal in supporting equal funding across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, because the way schools are funded in this country and in this state perpetuates white supremacy and racism. These are some of the things we're doing, and we want to talk to you about other things we've been doing, as well as to listen to you. Our youth are our leader. We need to listen to you, and we need to do better. We stand united with you and are humbled to work with you, our young people, to dismantle white supremacy and ensure that Black lives do matter. Please continue to protest, and please join us at our meetings. Write to us at community comments. Ensure your new student representative agrees with your point of view. Hold us accountable and continue to use your voices to change our schools and our community. We are incredibly proud of you. At this time, I would like to introduce Superintendent Copeland.
Thank you, Dr. Gilbert. Before I talk about what's listed on the agenda, let me follow up with Dr. Gilbert's remarks. Over the last week, the tragedy of the killing of George Floyd, coupled with disturbing online postings by members of the Lower Merion community, has ignited a strong and positive voice within our school community. This past weekend, the voices of students, voices that this board and administration champion, support and applaud, have been heard. These will be important guiding statements for our future. We need to do more, but that isn't to say we have done nothing. Over the past 5 years, we have reformed the process for access to the gifted program, revising testing requirements that have, in part, prevented African American students from gifted programs for decades. That resulted in increased representation in the first year. The district has created summer bridge programs that have also contributed to more students of color enrolling in higher level and more challenging classes. The entire remake of the math program has already borne positive results. Our dedication and funds to over $200,000 in a one-to-one tutoring program has created an atmosphere where students are pre-taught and coming to class feeling confident and empowered in their knowledge and ready to contribute. This work will continue as we refine the process that has begun around our equity audits that are following some state and national models. Our summer programs have supported students in honors and AP classes, and our academic program of studies has grown with the inclusion of an African American literature class, along with other representations of culturally diverse texts and authors in our high school. We have had support from Dr. Howard Stevenson of the University of Pennsylvania, who worked with our care committee. You may remember, those of you that participated, that Dr. Stevenson's brother, Brian Stevenson, is the executive director of the Equal Justice Initiative and was the subject of the movie Just Mercy. The last 2 years, we've been fortunate to have worked with Dr. Tara Doty. In addition to working with CARE, Dr. Doty has worked one-on-one with each building principal on their cultural proficiency goals and action plans. In turn, the principals of each building are implementing these goals with the support of their teachers and school families. This year, the primary focus of our professional development program for every teacher in the district was presented by Dr. Doty. And to my great pleasure, her presentations were universally met with applause and appreciation by our staff. And we intend to expand this for next year to include not only more training for staff, but also training for our secondary school students. Further, our Human Relations Department is actively recruiting educators of color to join our district by attending numerous minority job fairs, such as those sponsored by historically Black colleges and universities and organizations such as the Delaware Valley Consortium for Equity in Education, of which Lower Merion is a founding member. Last year, we also had several principals attend a conference in Harrisburg with Tyrone Howard from UCLA, specifically on the topic of discipline and restorative practice. In return, we brought Dr. Howard back to Lower Merion School District for professional development. Our goal is not to enter a circle of infraction, then punishment, then infraction, then punishment. Instead, we want to inject the word disciple into discipline, to teach. We have also been engaging my assistant to the superintendent for administration, Megan Schaefer, in looking at how our district policies could better reflect our stance of equity and inclusion in order to ensure that we create necessary changes in behavior. And just before we had to close because of COVID-19, she had personally attended some of our task force meetings to begin that work. Again, we're not there yet. More and much more can and will be done. We want to hear from our community. We want to see positive change. We want a culture in which every student, teacher, parent comes to the Lower Merion School District and feels safe, secure, dignified, and valued. Some of you I've talked to may know my paternal grandfather was a porter on the railroad, wore the white coat, served people on trains. My maternal grandfather was a longshoreman. My father, a policeman, although he died when I was a teenager. All through my life, I have heard myself called names, told my ancestors were better off enslaved than living in Africa. While going to college was always an expectation, it was ingrained one summer caddying at Wingfoot Golf Club. As an invisible African-American team, the members ordered us about and spoke openly about the ingratitude of Blacks during the Civil Rights Movement. At that point, college was not just the next rung in the ladder, it was incredibly important for me to attain. I remember back when I made my first move from home to teach in the Princeton, New Jersey schools. We hired a moving company from Harlem. They were two men who knew my family. I listened to them talk during the move. They called each other Mr. I asked, why are you calling each other Mr.? You obviously are old friends. They said to me, we call each other Mr. because no one else would. We all have a duty to make sure that we pass on to the next generation a world more civil, more accessible, and more just than the world we inherited. I believe that Mr. Floyd's death will not have been in vain. Thank you. So, as is in keeping with the end of the year, I have some highlights to end the year with. Usually at our June meeting, we recognize the individual students and teams who have won state championships in their chosen athletics and activities. Unfortunately, with the school year cut short due to COVID-19, most competitions did not have the opportunity to hold state championship events. However, we do have two students to recognize this evening for winning the state DECA competition in entrepreneurship and team decision-making. They are Lower Merion High School students, Aiden Wessels and Adam Chen. Congratulations to them and their coach, Sean Capkin, who also welcomed a new baby to his family last week. Tonight, the Board of School Directors will be acknowledging the ISC mini grants. The ISC received 34 grant applications for the 2020-21 school year, requesting $18,981.30. The funding came from each of the 10 schools, home and school associations, and a total of 26 grants received funding. The ISC waits for this to be presented at the board meeting before notifying the teachers, so only share that 10 grants were funded at the elementary level, another 10 grants at the middle school level, and 6 grants at the high schools. The total grant funding for the 2020-21 is $11,200, with award amounts ranging from $74 to a maximum award of $999. In other highlights, over the past 2 weeks, our high schools held individual graduation ceremonies for the members of the Harriton and Lower Merion class of 2020. At these meticulously planned, safely distanced events, each student was able to walk across the stage, receive their diploma, while their family members captured the moment in photos and video. While we're not able to hold our usual graduations at St. Joe's this year, we urge everyone in the community to tune in to our website and Lmsb cable channel to watch our virtual graduation programs on June 16th for Harriton and June 17th for Lower Merion. On the website, you can also watch the Harriton Ram recognition ceremony, the Power Scholars Rites of Passage, and the Lower Merion Senior Awards. And that completes my highlights.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Copeland. Before we move on to our committee reports.
We have a budget presentation, Dr. Gilbert.
Oh my goodness. I don't have that on my agenda. I apologize. Why don't
it's
you?
Okay. We may have slipped it in late. I apologize.
I apologize. Please.
I'm virtually looking for Mr. Orlando through all of these.
Let's see here.
Boxes. Speak so I see you light up. Oh, there you go. Okay.
Okay. It's not showing up, is it?
Well, you have to hit the share. And I believe it's down in the bottom corner. Hold on.
Here we go.
Here we go.
If you want to turn it into slides, there you go.
There we go.
So before we begin the formal presentation of the final budget, clearly this has been a difficult experience. We have, even before we were closed, we began our budget sessions. We've had, I think it was, Mr. Orlando, 4 formal presentations to the public. Those presentations have been recorded. And we also had a final budget finance committee meeting, not a budget, but a finance committee meeting on the fund balance, and that was
May 27th.
May 27th, and I think one of the board members is going to present on that.
Correct.
Next slide. Just some highlights. One of the things that our budget is continuing to focus on is the unprecedented growth in the Lower Merion School District. We've needed to hire over the last 10 years about 100 additional professional staff. We've made additions to Gladwin, Penn Valley, Welsh Valley, Ballard-Kinwood, the district administration building, construction of Lower Merion and Harriton High Schools. So those, as growth has occurred, so has the growth on buildings, so has the growth on staff. Our enrollment growth, we are with 1,612 students is the bottom line. A 22.9, almost a 23% increase, the highest per pupil increase in the last 10 years of any school district in Pennsylvania. So of the 400, that's okay. Of the 499 school districts, 391 saw a decline. One school district saw no growth. 107 showed growth, and 27 showed growth of more than 10%. And this slide is yours, Mr. Orlando.
Okay. So this is giving you a brief summary of the expenses. So our expenditures, you can see 77% was made up of salaries and benefits. It's about over $220 million and a little over 65 million, which is 23% of our total budget. So our total expenditures in the final budget is $288,029,695. This will call for an increase in the millage rate by 2.6%, which is the Act 1 index. So the millage will be 30.1734. And you can see our budget expenditure increase is a little over 2.8%. For a medium household of just over $250,000, the increase for the 2.6% index is $192. I just want to note one thing. There is a motion to the homestead exclusion has been approved by the state. So there would be $3,474,000 in homestead for over 15,000 taxpayers, which will yield about a $229 credit to their tax bill. This here is the cap from our May 27th meeting. I think Mrs. Robinson will give a detailed report, but these are from our budget presentations. We have a capital improvement plan for the operations, which is just over $4.4 million for the coming year, and you can see the list of approved items that are projected to happen next year. Our bus replacement plan for next year is $2.1 million, and the information technology plan that was presented back in April is about $970,000. So a total of $7.5 million in capital improvements is scheduled for the upcoming school year.
If people did have the opportunity to look at Mr. Frazier's presentation when he made it, there may be some changes going forward. There will be some changes going forward because we will shift some funding to purchase additional Chromebooks and iPads just in case we have a reversion to a remote learning at some point during next year. Sorry.
Okay. And then just kind of give you a quick summary of where we're at. So we have about $6.8 million in our capital reserve. We do have approved buses from this year, $1.8 million. They will arrive scheduled next month. And then the 7.5 that we just mentioned in capital reserve items for total expenditure, about $9.3 million. So you can see we have a shortfall of about $2.5 million. The next part we talked about was the committed fund balance. So as part of the annual process, we review our commitments, and our commitments will be for the 2021 school year, $10.3 million for future PESERS obligations and $5 million for post-employment benefits. So
I should just
fund balance is 50.3. Okay.
Say that one of the concerns we have is when we open a new school in 2022, we will have additional operating costs. We'll also have additional debt service, and it's at that time that we expect, if not sooner, to have to draw down on the PESERS obligations or the PESERS fund balance.
Correct. This here is, so Moody's does an annual comment. This is the some points from the most recent 2018 report that they issued. So you can see it's very positive. We have an excellent credit position. Our financial position is very healthy. It's also aligned with our AAA rating. Our debt and pension obligations are moderate overall, and we have an exceptional healthy economy and tax base. One thing they do note here is Pennsylvania school districts continue to face challenges from overall rising fixed costs. Now, there is a new report expected soon from Moody's, and based on the draft reports that we have seen to date, we have no reason to believe that any of the information will change negatively. We also have been providing information that indicates that the district's fund balance as a percentage of operating revenue now falls just short of the U.S. median.
And finally, here's where the money goes. And this is an important slide. You've heard me speak about the programs that we put in place in the district. The board has been very supportive of the administration in developing those programs, increasing teachers to keep class sizes low, a commitment to the arts, and a commitment to the enhanced programs that we enjoy in the school system. I'd also like to remind the public that I think it was at the last business meeting, the board passed a resolution that would allow us to, that asked the legislature to pass a legislation that would allow us to reduce the impact of property taxes on senior citizens and folks who fall within those categories. We feel that the legislature will do that, or hopefully will do that, but we fear that they may not be able to do it by the time the budget goes out, but we remain committed to that process. That concludes my report, Dr. Gilbert.
Thank you very much for the budget report, which you had told me about extensively earlier, and I apologize for not remembering as I'm reading through. And at this time, I'd just like to ask if any board members have any comments. But first, I want to remind people that this has been a long, ongoing process that begins with Mr. Copeland having instituted zero-based budgeting models. This is a really an ongoing process as we try to make sure that our budget is following our priorities, and as well is recognizing that these are important funds that the community gives to us to ensure that our students have the education that this community expects. Are there any comments or questions at this time? I know there'll be reports on the different finance committee meetings shortly, but if anyone wants to say anything right now, please feel free to do so.
Lucy has a question.
Yes, thank you. I was wondering, Mr. Copeland, if you could speak a little to the impact that COVID will have in the fall and how that impacts the budget.
Certainly. Well, right now, as I mentioned, we're anticipating the possibility that we'll need to expand our remote learning. One of the things that was difficult for families is when they may have had a couple of electronic devices, but when you got 3 or 4 kids all trying to work at the same time, it makes scheduling difficult. So we've expanded the number of electronic devices. We're right now trying to buy as much cleaning materials as we can, and we're having some trouble with our supply chain. We're looking at protective gear for our staff, and we're also concerned about our revenues and what might be an even larger increase in enrollment. The last time there was a recession, the numbers went up in the Lower Merion schools, which would put even more of a stress on us. As would tax appeals. Vic, can you fill? Were there any things I left out?
No, you covered it all.
Are there any other questions or comments?
I do not see any other raised hands from.
Okay, thank you for your assistance, Denise. Before we move on, I also want to take a moment so that I don't forget to acknowledge and thank the Interschool Council, first of all, for all the amazing hard work that they do all year, but especially now this evening for the mini grants program. And we really appreciate the amount of thought and time and effort that they put into this. And it's a really important way that they and the community support the schools, in particular our teachers who have lots of really great ideas that they want to implement. So I'll make sure that I take the opportunity to do that. I would also like to just take a moment before we move into our committee report. So those of you who are waiting to do that will know that's coming up next. To acknowledge Dr. Scott Evestog, who is our assistant superintendent and who has been appointed superintendent of the Hatboro Worship School District. And so this evening, I believe, is his last formal meeting. And so I just wanted to take a moment to talk about Dr. Eveslag. He came to our district in 2006. I hadn't realized it was even that many years, Scott. And in that time, he has held many, many important roles in our district, including the athletic director at Lower Merion High School. He was principal of Welsh Valley Middle School. He was principal then of Harriton High School, and then he became our assistant superintendent. And you should know that prior to coming to the district, he served in administrative roles and spent 10 years as a special education teacher in other districts. Since January 2016, he has served as the assistant superintendent, which means he's worked with the superintendent to oversee all aspects of curriculum and instruction, professional learning and academic leadership, including supervision of our principals and academic council. So he's been doing an enormous amount of work for the district. On a personal note, I've had the very good fortune to have been a parent at Welsh Valley Middle School when Dr. Eveslag was principal at that time. And obviously I've worked with him as a board member in his most recent role. I want to say that this school district is a better place because of the time he has spent here. He is a very talented administrator, which is why he's been hired away. He is a very talented administrator and he'll make a wonderful superintendent. But most importantly, he always puts kids and families first, always. His genuine compassion is just unmistakable. And the board thanks you from the bottom of our hearts and wishes you all of the best in all of your future endeavors. So we just wanted to take a moment to say that because, you know, given COVID, we're not all seeing you before you leave. So thank you again, Scott. Yes,
May I say
we
a
would
couple
all
words?
be, if we were, what?
May I say a word?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for your very kind words, Dr. Gilbert. I'm trying not to get emotional, but it's really been a privilege to work in this community for this board alongside so many talented educators and work with our amazing students. Our students give us so much great hope, and I absolutely love every minute working with them. They never cease to amaze us as they did this weekend. So I certainly feel privileged to have that opportunity. And I'm very grateful for all of the opportunities that this board have provided for me. And I want to thank Mr. Copeland for his leadership and his mentorship. I feel I've grown a tremendous amount under your leadership, and I thank you for the chances and the opportunities you've given me. And just want to say thank you to everyone in the community who's made my time here so meaningful and special. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
And I'm guessing Superintendent Copeland, I know you
I
said a few words.
I said nice things about him the last time. I don't know how much I
Okay,
can
I just
continue
always
with
like
this.
to make sure you get the last word. That's, you know.
I just want to wish him well. And just remind you, after the good parking space, it's pretty much downhill from there. You know?
So, well, again, thank you, and we look forward to seeing all the great things you're going to be doing. At this time, we're going to move to committee meeting reports. I'm not sure of the order because I'm not seeing the agenda. I apologize, the one that's on the screen. But I'm going to ask Lucy Klein to give the intergovernmental meeting report. If you don't mind starting with that, Lucy.
Sure, happy to. On May 27th, 2020, members of the Lower Merion Township Board of Commissioners, Narberth Borough Council, and the Lmsb Board of School Directors met for an intergovernmental meeting to discuss a number of topics and to exchange information. Although the meeting was held using Zoom due to the ongoing pandemic, the Lmsb School Board were the nominal hosts. I want to take a moment and talk about access to the Zoom meeting. I understand that several people indicated trouble accessing the Zoom meeting, and I just want to say I'm sorry that that was the case. The school board, we've been holding our meetings via Zoom since our March 16th board meeting, just days after our schools closed. And we had hosted 17 meetings between that first board meeting and the intergovernmental meeting on the 27th. We had not received any complaints or concerns regarding accessing the Zoom meetings during that time period, so we really had no expectation that there would be an issue on the 27th. Participants in the meeting were Aaron Mitterick and Bob Weisberg of the Narberth Borough Council, Dan Bernheim, Mike McKeon, Anthony Stevenson, Ray Courtney, Todd Sinai, Andy Gavrin, Gilda Kramer, and Rick Churchill from the LM Board of Commissioners, and myself, Ben Driscoll, Lori Achtman, Sean Mooring, and Peter Lee from the Lower Merion School Board. The meeting began with updates from the Lower Merion, Narberth, and LMSD on COVID-19 response and next steps. It was followed by an update from the school board on school start time. The school board reiterated its commitment to changing start times due to the scientific evidence that later start times would promote positive outcomes for our older students. There were questions asked by the Lower Merion commissioners about the potential dissenting research, but the LMSD board has been studying this issue for many years, and the broad consensus among sleep researchers recommends later start times for adolescents. The meeting then shifted to a related discussion about lights on Arnold Field. The district hopes to start construction next year to help address our students' sleep needs, but also build in enough time to work with the neighbors on mitigating factors. LM commissioners asked questions about the need for lights and whether the lights would be a prerequisite for changing start times. And the answer from the school board was yes, those two efforts are linked. Later start times would result in later school end times and sports and games practices, requiring lights to support the later start times. There was a discussion about the effect on neighbors and the sacrifices that would need to be made by those living closest to the field, including light bleed over, noise, crowds, and traffic. The school directors expressed hope that these issues could be mitigated or lessened as much as possible so the lights could support the health of our students and increase our overall sense of community. 3 topics were discussed related to the ongoing enrollment growth of LMSD. The first was the current open request by LMSD to extend the modulars at Penguin Elementary. Unfortunately, the timelines of the new middle school require the extension of the existing modulars to support the students currently attending Penguin. The hope is that once the new middle school opens, it will alleviate crowding at Penguin so that the modulars are no longer needed. But in the short term, the modulars do continue to be needed. The second enrollment growth topic was the various land development applications at Penguin, all related to parking and adding additional hard surface play area for the students. The school directors explained that the impetus of the land development applications was being notified by the township that Penguin Elementary School was out of compliance with zoning and did not have adequate parking based on the new zoning passed in February. The district was required to submit plans to address the parking deficiency and maintain its ability to provide hard surface play area and classrooms for the students. Among the plans submitted, Plan 1 is the baseline plan because it was the only way for the district to solve the parking deficiency via a by right plan, a plan that could be executed without any open questions or issues to resolve. The other 2 plans that were submitted preserved more field space, but would require waivers or approvals outside of LMSD control. There was a 4th plan submitted for consideration by the Penguin Civic Association. Many of the components of that 4th plan were previously investigated during LMSD's due diligence, but ultimately deprioritized due to several problems, including interfering with the right-of-way for Haverford Avenue, unsafe entry close to the corner of Haverford and Suffolk, and unsafe corner on the slope near Drayton. The school directors noted that all of the plans submitted by the district include a small hardtop play area near the back of the school, and that was really the cause of the discussion at hand. Although there are no current plans to build at Penguin Elementary, the new zoning code passed in February forces LMSD to preserve the possibility of future expansion at the few schools where the zoning code would permit expansion. There are only 3 current schools that could support any future expansion based on the new zoning code: Penn Valley, Penn Wynne, and Belmont Hills. Although the new middle school is expected to alleviate congestion everywhere, current enrollment projections indicate that additional space may be completely filled in the near future. The commissioners asked about whether redistricting was a possible solution. As it happens, redistricting is not an option due to all the other schools already being at or over capacity, forcing us to already expand or add modulars in other locations. The commissioners asked about the enrollment impact of COVID and whether the district expects an enrollment surge from transferring private school students. It is hard to predict, but the last economic downturn caused a significant reduction in the percentage of private school attendance in the township, and something similar may happen. The commissioners noted that an unintended byproduct of the new zoning code designed to reduce overbuilding in the township may have limited the ability of the district to deal with enrollment growth and forced LMSD to protect whatever impervious it has left. The commissioners and school directors expressed a joint desire to work together to get ahead of enrollment growth and create a more holistic and comprehensive plan. The last enrollment-related topic was an update on bus parking at the former St. Justin's site near Welsh Valley Middle School. There will be 12 buses parked at Welsh Valley this fall because the increase to the bus fleet to support enrollment growth means we currently have 12 more buses than we can park at the district's currently approved bus parking lots. The commissioners asked if the school board pledges that there will only be 12 buses parked there. LMSD's recently approved permit only includes spaces for 12 buses and 12 passenger cars. So there are no current plans to park more than 12 buses. There is a joint effort underway between the commissioners, school board, and members of the Penn Valley community to find a more holistic solution for bus parking. The school directors asked about the township's comprehensive plan and noted that it includes additional fields to support school and club teams and the desire to add more lighted fields. The commissioners expressed support for more fields, but that lights would need to be studied and ensure minimum burden on neighbors. The comprehensive plan also includes adding more sidewalks, but those sidewalks would need to be supported by the topography of the neighborhood. The school directors noted that in addition to the topography, sidewalks should be built in locations that connect to other sidewalks. The final topic was ongoing discussion about the fields for the new middle school and the preservation of existing structures. The commissioners expressed support for saving the structures. LMSD would like to save the structures if possible, but not at the expense of fields, which the township's comprehensive plan identifies as a broad need. The school directors suggested that any structures that do not fit into the current field design could be moved to another property, but the commissioners expressed a desire to keep the structures in their current context and setting. The next intergovernmental meeting has not yet been scheduled, but all parties agreed that the number of current discussion areas may require meeting more often than once a quarter for the near term. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Klein. We're now going to have a Finance Committee meeting report from the committee, I believe, May 27th. Is that going to be Ms. Robinson or Ms. Klein? I know there was, who's giving that report?
I'm sorry. We have the May 20th Communications Committee by Deborah Finger. Then we have the May 27th Finance Committee meeting by Suva Robinson, and then the
and then the June 4th, okay.
Right.
So let me start with the May 20th Communications Committee meeting by Ms. Finger.
Thank you, Dr. Gilbert. So Ms. Buckman took us through a presentation on what the district has done since the closure. More than 700 laptops have been distributed. More than 40,000 meals have been delivered thanks to the delivery database of volunteers. We have COVID-19 info pages for the public and staff on the website. We have had pickups, drop-offs, cleanups during the week of May 18th through 22nd with the help of our nursing staff, contactless pickup and drop-off for laptops, cap and gowns, yearbooks, etc. The elementary school teachers are working to clean out their classrooms to have drive-through item returns, and the middle school custodians did locker clean out and distribution. We're one paper away from being able to be an open summer feeding program to deliver meals on Mondays and Wednesdays to any child under 18 who shows up to pick up a meal. For the class of 2020, this historic graduation year, we have worked to make it special during this difficult time. So as you have surely seen driving around, there are lawn signs that have been delivered to students' homes. As Mr. Copeland discussed earlier, the award ceremonies happen. So the RAM Recognition Awards, Rites of Passage, Lower Merion Senior Awards. We have had wonderful individual graduations that have been held. Harriton High School's graduation will be recorded this week. Will air on June 16th. Lower Merion High School graduation was recorded on June 5th and will air on the 17th. We had legacy photos there, taking photographs. We'll be editing a montage, which will be part of the closed caption graduation recordings, and they'll be live streamed on our website as well as broadcast on Lower Merion School District TV channel. For the fall of 2020, our communications subcommittee has been working on the transition back to school, working on biweekly updates that will come from Mr. Copeland, working through various scenarios. Parent feedback will be collected via the ISCs. Some other ongoing work. Graduating seniors information is going into the Final Site alumni database. This is the first year we'll actually be able to migrate the information into the alumni database so that we'll be able to reach out to them after graduation. The Department of Ed has extended the clearance expirations for our volunteer renewals due to COVID-19. Our residency partnerships are on hold. We've just heard about the intergovernmental meeting that was on May 27th, which Ms. Buckman had created a Facebook event, and the meetings with Right at School to gauge preparedness. Commissioner newsletters are now coming to all board member inboxes so we can be in the know about what they communicate to their constituents. And lastly, there was discussion around sending a newsletter to our township residents to keep them informed. Currently, for timely news, we communicate to the commissioners and the civic associations. And that was our meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Finger. At this time, we're going to have a report of the Finance Committee meeting, but I think it's Ms. Klein is going to read that because Ms. Robinson's having some connection issues.
Hi,
I'm
yes,
sorry. Go ahead. I didn't know who she had said, but forget it. I got it.
Yep, it's me. I'm going to do the Finance Committee meeting notes because Ms. Robinson is still having some internet and electric issues thanks to the storms last week. The Finance Committee meeting met on May 27th, 2020. The meeting took place over Zoom as we continue to observe the governor's mandate to close the schools during the COVID-19 pandemic. The purpose of this meeting was to discuss the fund balances of the Capital Reserve Fund and General Fund as projected for the 2020-2021 school year. The Capital Reserve Fund is used to pay for capital improvements, bus replacements, and information technology 5-year plans. As of May 2020, the current balance is approximately $6.8 million. Bus replacements during 2019 were $1.8 million, and the total Capital Reserve Fund items for the 2021 school year are anticipated to cost $7.5 million, including $4.4 million of capital improvements, $2.1 million of bus replacements, and about $1 million in information technology plan needs. The estimated remaining balance is a negative $2.5 million. Therefore, the Capital Reserve Fund will need an infusion from the general fund at some point during the year to cover the shortfall. We may have a transfer into the fund depending on the results of the financial audit of 6/30/2020, but we will not know that until November 2020. The general fund began with $20.8 million of committed amounts and $16.9 million of assigned and $4.9 million unassigned, totaling $43 million at June 30th, 2019. The $20.8 million of committed amounts is made up of $15.3 million of PSERS reserves, $5 million of future post-employment benefit reserves, and $0.5 million of rate stabilization on variable interest rate bonds. The $16.9 million of assigned fund balance is related to litigation. For 2021, the committed fund balance will be reduced from $20.8 million to $15.3 million. The $5.5 million will be added to our assigned fund balance for litigation matters. The committed fund balance will be for future pension obligations and future post-employment benefits. The variable rate stabilization commitment will be eliminated since the school district has only one variable rate bond, which will mature in a few years. We have budgeted to use some fund balance, approximately $4.7 million, to balance the budget for the 2021 school year. This is an increase in utilization of fund balance due to the uncertainty in revenues around the COVID-19 pandemic impact. And those are our notes from that meeting.
Thank you again, Ms. Klein. I think we now have the Facilities and Purchasing Committee meeting report from June 4th, and I believe that's Mr. Peter Lee.
Thank you. The Facilities and Purchasing Committee, June 4th. Following agenda items were discussed and recommended for approval by the committee, so they may be discussed and voted on at our meeting tonight. We reviewed and recommended for approval the list of bills. We reviewed and recommended for approval the following contracts for academic software: BrainPop for $19,339 and $23,613.43 respectively. We reviewed and recommended for approval the following items from the purchasing report: WB Mason for copy paper at a rate of $22.47 per carton, with an estimated 3,000 cartons to be purchased. River Valley Organics, $16,898.75 for the delivery of safety mulch. Plasterer Equipment Company, $98,700 for the purchase of a replacement backhoe. JP Gallagher Construction, $20,556 for driveway seal coating at Lower Marion High School and Harriton High School. Imperial Dade, $9,924.48 for the purchase of 12 backpack vacuums for the Transportation Department, and a second purchase of $7,993.86 for the purchase of an auto scrubber for Kinwood Elementary. Integrated Security Systems, $149,737 for the purchase of a replacement security alert system that connects Lmsb schools to the new countywide system. Home Depot Pro and Institutional, $14,399.92 for the purchase of 8 electrostatic spray disinfecting backpacks. Granger, $18,144 for the purchase of 7,000 cloth face masks for adult and secondary students. A separate purchase will be made for smaller masks for elementary students. S.J. Thomas Company, $23,896.96 for the installation of fencing at Marion Elementary that was recommended by a security audit, as well as $70,850 for the installation of walkway lighting at Marion Elementary. Rico USA, a 48-month contract for the lease of copy machines, $11,077.35 a month for copy machines across the district, and there's an expected $8,694.54 per month expected per print charges. Starlight Solutions, $72,085 for the installation of replacement audio systems at the 2 gyms at Harriton. We reviewed and recommended for rejection the bids related to the installation of electrical service at Arnold Field at Lower Marion High School for expected delays to that project. We reviewed and recommended for approval the following additional agenda items: a contract for Dr. Jean Stanley for a not to exceed amount of $30,000 for consulting and training. Contracts at various rates for Atlas, Balgo, Klein, Metz, Perkiomen Motor Coach, MTS, Philly Trans, SEG, Superior, and Werner for supplemental and ad hoc student transportation services. Renewal of Silver Eye, $7,783.05 for software that allows printing from Chromebooks and Macs. A contract for Tools Forever, $8,257 for software to help manage user accounts. Renewal of iBoss, $81,440 for web content filtering. Renewal of Cisco IronPort, $14,356 for spam filtering. Renewals and purchase of PowerSchool products, $48,024 for the student information system software. $13,696.68 for Talent Ed recruitment software and records management. $27,682.90 for student enrollment software, previously called InfoStat. There was a contract for Heinz Rowing, which is an agenda item they'll be discussed in more detail tonight. That's for the annual lease of storage racks and boat launches for the rowing team. Contract for Advanced Protection Company to provide 11 security agents at a rate of $23 to $28 per hour. Contract for Blackmore and Associates for a not to exceed amount of $18,500 for infiltration testing at Harriton. Change orders for weatherproofing technologies totaling $20,680.38 for newly discovered issues related to the roof replacement at Marianne Elementary. Change order for S.J. Thomas, a $41,287.55 increase to the scope of the seal coating project at Welsh Valley. That project will now include the approved bus parking fencing at the former St. Justin site. And change order for Brightfields for a decrease of $22,360 based on the reduction of project scope. And then an authorization for the superintendent to approve change orders and cost adjustments for the various summer projects that are going to be going on for an aggregate not to exceed amount of $100,000. The Facilities and Purchasing Committee also received 2 project updates. One on the new middle school. Demolition work there is largely complete while blasting and grading work continues. Vendors have asked us to extend our deadline for construction bids, so the milestone dates have shifted. Now we're looking at June 16th deadline for bids, and with the board expecting to vote on vendor selection at a special board meeting on June 22nd. Second project update was related to lead testing of the water fountains. Due to school closures, the testing related to Act 39 could not be completed this year. Testing will restart this coming year, continuing on the same schedule, so no schools will be skipped. 1/3 of Lmsb schools are tested each year on a 3-year cycle. The next Facilities and Purchasing Committee meeting will be on July 16th at 8:30 a.m. And that concludes my report.
Very much, Julie. Thank you. And I think that concludes all of our reports. Is there anyone I'm missing here? Okay. Thank you to everyone for those reports. At this time, we normally take, we do take audience recognition on action items only. Those are items that we're taking a vote on, and my understanding is that there were none. So unless that's changed, I'm going to move on, and there'll be opportunity at the end to hear public comment on non-action item matters. So before we, am I hearing someone? I'm sorry. Before we move to decide whether we're going to go to a consent agenda, I would like to vote separately on the budget-related items. These are items D through I on the Business, Office, and Finance Committee report. Mr. Orlando, can you please read those for us?
Sure. Item D, to adopt the 2020-21 budget for Lower Merion School District for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2020, and sets the tax rate of 30.1734 mils, the budget resolution, and the budget real estate tax resolution, and resolutions authorizing the business manager and the assistant to the superintendent for district administration to carry out all necessary actions. To adopt the 2020 homestead and farmstead exclusion resolution, which I mentioned in the presentation, will be about $229.59 for over 15,000 approved taxpayers. Approve the committed fund balance as noted in our report earlier. Item G, continue to segregate in the Pennsylvania School Liquid Asset Fund, account number XXXXX113. Monies received on account of the exceptions approved by the Pennsylvania Department of Education for the 2016-17 tax years pending a resolution of the appeal of the Montgomery County Court of Common Pleas order of August 29, 2016, and any proceedings or remand or otherwise in relation to August 2000. Can't read the rest of it, Denise. Scroll down. Sorry. Okay. and to supplement this amount with monies in the 2021 tax millage attributable to those exceptions for the 2016-17 tax increase, and those monies in the account may not be released by the administration without further action taken by the board at a public meeting. Approve the capital reserve transfer and approve the 2019-20 budget transfers.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Orlando. Are there any questions on these agenda items? I think it might be easiest to raise your hand in the chat section. Does that work for you, Denise?
Yes, it does, because they'll pop up to the front since we're sharing the screen.
Perfect. So if you want to, if you have any questions or comments at this time on those, are there any questions or comments?
I do not see any.
Okay, thank you, Denise.
Yep.
And again, if you, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve. So if you could raise your hand if you are willing to move to approve.
I have Deborah Finger raised her hand.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
And hold 1 second. I do, if I have to look at the screen differently. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
And we have Ben Driscoll seconds.
Thank you, Ben. And do you want us to raise our hands in chat if we approve when I do that? Do you want us to do it that way, Denise? Or do you
That
want
would
us
be
to just
great,
raise?
thank you.
Okay,
Yep.
so I'm going to ask if who's in favor, and then can you please raise your hand if you're in favor in the chat section. So, okay, my chat is disabled.
So
You do have, Denise, you do have yes and no instead of raising hand, right?
Right, but I mean, I can see that they have all raised their hand in agreement. But
Okay,
the
so
chat feature is
all
disabled.
all in favor. Okay, anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? Then the motion passes. At this time, are there any questions on tonight's agenda before I ask for a motion to approve the remaining action items as the consent agenda? Is there anybody who would like to ask a question or make a comment?
I do not have any raised hands by the board.
Thank you so much. So I would like to, don't I have to do a motion to go to a consent agenda before I do the motion to approve, Ken?
No, you do not.
Oh, okay.
You just need a motion. You just need a motion to approve the remaining action items as a consent agenda.
Thank you. And that is what I have in front of me. Okay, just so do I have a motion to approve the remaining action items as a consent agenda?
Yes, I have Miss Finger raised her hand.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
And Miss Robinson is seconding.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Yes.
Or raise your hand. Opposed? Abstain? Anyone abstain? Okay, then the motion passes. I believe now Mr. Roos or Ms. LaPera, I'm not sure who's going to read the public comment that was on non-agenda items.
That would be me, President Gilbert.
Thank you, Mr. Roos.
All right, shall I? Okay. Please let me know if at any point you're not able to hear me. I wanted to let the board know there were about 10 emails asking the district to take a stand against public statements made by County Commissioner Joseph Gale. I will not read those 10 emails, but I will read the response that the board sent to each of them. Quote, the Lower Merion School Board wishes to go on record unequivocally condemning the statements made by Montgomery County Commissioner Joe Gale referring to the Black Lives Matter movement as a, quote, radical left-wing hate group, end quote. Mr. Gale's statements are ugly, divisive, and exactly the wrong message for our elected officials to be sending at this time. We support the vote to censure him by the other county commissioners. That was sent sincerely, Superintendent Copeland and the Lower Merion Board of School Directors. The next public comment I have is from School District Inter-School Council co-presidents Sarah Altman and Caroline Montague. To the board, Superintendent Copeland and Assistant Superintendent Eveslage, on behalf of the Inter-School Council, yes. On behalf of the Inter-School Council, we wish to acknowledge and thank Dr. Scott Eveslage, who is leaving the Lower Merion School District after 11 years to become the superintendent of the Hatboro-Horsham School District. Dr. Eveslage, a great friend and ally to the ISC and all the Lmsb families, readily available to host hot topics himself and or connect us with other members of the administration. Additionally, he has been a great listener, sounding board, and voice of reason to all who seek his counsel. He will be greatly missed by all the students and other community members in the district. Congratulations and well wishes to Scott. The next comment is from resident Punet Sahada. Hello, to submit a second set of public comments for the board meeting. I also ask that these comments be shared with the committee when the district making decisions about school reopening in the fall and what it will look like, as the last email from the superintendent mentioned some things from that committee that concern me. Today, June 8th, media reported that children with special needs will receive in-person support this summer in New York per an executive order signed by Governor Cuomo. And there's a link that anybody can see when these comments are posted. I'm writing to you, the Lower Merion School District leadership, that our children with special needs have suffered tremendously and regressed because of the school shutdown. They urgently need in-person supports and cannot learn by remote methods. These children are our most vulnerable and should receive in-person services this summer to make up for the ground they have lost the last 3 months. Please provide extended school services in person starting July 1, when the Pennsylvania Department of Education has said this will be allowed. Furthermore, these children require daily in-person support in the fall. They should not be placed on a, quote, staggered, end quote, schedule where they can only attend school every other day. These kids need in-person education, and remote learning has failed for most of them, as the article quoted above read New York also documents. Special education students should be every day getting in-person teaching both this summer and fall. Their well-being and neurodevelopment is as critical a public health issue as COVID-19, and a more longitudinal one, given that if these kids are neglected now, they won't develop their full potential to become independent adults. I am a physician and I understand deeply the research on neurodevelopment as well as the current public health issues around COVID-19, and I firmly believe, firmly believe that our children's education and future must be prioritized here. Second, for the committee working on reopening in the fall, please allow the Lower Merion Aquatic Club to pool at Lower Merion High School in the fall. Last email update attendance stated that the committee had decided, quote, outside groups, end quote, be allowed any access to school facilities. The Lower Merion Aquatic Club is not really a group. It is the only swim team that kids in elementary schools can access in our area. They have used the Lower Merion High School for years. Swimming is a no-contact sport, and COVID-19 transmission is lower than other sports, and social distancing can be done effectively. The Lower Merion Aquatic Club doesn't have ad pools, and our kids want to have a swim team if access to LMAC is banned for the fall. Okay, the next comment is from Lisa Prosnitz, Mr. Copeland, Dr. Gilbert, and Mr. Mooring and the entire school board. I want to thank you for speaking at yesterday's Black Lives Matter March and Town Hall discussion. I was for students advocating and remain incredibly impressed at their resolve. It is most unfortunate that we cannot physically be together during this time to discuss many of the issues that were raised every week at the many student-led Black Lives Matter demonstrations and protests. I appreciate that you take the time letters. There were some common threads that kept servicing as our students. Most immediately, it is clear that our students of color do not feel safe at school. Needless to say, this is incredibly disturbing and needs to be a top priority. Additionally, students frequently spoke of the lack of American history taught in the existing Lmsb classroom. I hope that we can bring educators from within our community to find engaging ways to teach our children history, tolerance, acceptance, starting in kindergarten and not just during Black History Month. We can further bring our community together through the books we read and the discussions we lead in the classroom. Perhaps in addition to our existing care meetings, which can be very difficult for parents of young children to attend, we can build to host care parent meetings during the day or evenings. I understand that it can be incredibly difficult to find a diverse body of teachers. I was grateful to hear that it has been a priority. During the school board debate, the students also inquired about bringing in more HBCUs to our college fairs, historically Black colleges and universities to our college fairs. While change takes time, there are a number of immediate actions that our administrators can take to improve the lives of our students of color. I ask that you continue the dialogue and that you continue to truly listen to our families about their needs. Please let me know how I can further support your efforts. The next comment is from, scroll down, Mary Schwingen, Ardmore. She states, "Dear Mr. Copeland and Dr. Gilbert, thank you for speaking at yesterday's Black Lives Matter demonstration. I'm heartened by the powerful display of strength the students showed, as well as the strong words of support you both shared with us. It is my hope that the changes made by LMSD will be deeply intertwined with our school's daily program. Because implicit learning is vital, I would like to see us radically alter the way history and literature are taught in our district. Special events like Black History Month or anti-racist training seminars will have nowhere near the same impact. Explicit teaching will be met with less acceptance. So let the students read Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness, then have them read Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart. Let them read Huck Finn and then have them read Beloved. Let them study John Brown and decide for themselves if he was an extremist demagogue or an incredible hero. Have them study the Black Panther Party and debate the same. Whatever approach you settle on, please use it extensively into the academic program. Add-on training will tell students not to be racist. Littering history can stave off cynicism by showing them why. Having attended the MAT teacher training program at Brown University some years ago, I know for a fact that Mr. Copeland is correct when he says it's difficult to hire teachers. And yet I know from personal experience that having Black teachers has a powerful impact. My personal memory of Dr. Assassination, for example, is the bereft second grade teacher as she spoke of Dr. King's death. Her anguish helped me understand what his loss meant to African Americans. I learned about the disparate experience of Black Americans from her. There are many places in the world where Black people suffer far less for the color of their skin. Still, the US is not the only nation to face this type of devastation. We have a lot in common with South Africa, and I suspect South Africans have a lot they could teach us. I would like to suggest that Lower Merion School District Teacher Exchange Program with a school system somewhere. The South African Teacher Exchange Program would be one way to bring in Black teachers who have experienced systemic hatred, but who have also grown up in a majority Black nation where they're presumably a kind of solace that is hard to imagine for many Black folks here. At the very least, I can't imagine it is as lonely to me in South Africa. I will do anything I can to help you. I would love to hear exactly from what you need from parents like me to make these possible. Thank you very much. Okay, there is one more letter and a letter to read. It's in a, need to pull it up. It's a separate document. Okay. This is a letter actually from several parents sent to the public comment by Andrea Gosfield. Letter states as follows. To the Lower Merion, excuse me. To the Lower Merion Board of School Directors. We are recent racist social media posts by current students and the adverse impact it's having on our children and families in the community. In light of the unrest due to the recent murders of African Americans such as George Floyd and Arbery, and recent acts of racism and acts of hate perpetuated by LMSD on social media, we ask you to act right now. Racism is a 400-year-old blight that has continues to cause some death for African Americans. Racism is harmful and insidious to our entire community. It must be called out and added in every institution within our nation. The Lower Merion School District is no exception. The impact of racism on youth is a public health issue that adversely impacts child and adolescent health. On May 31st, the American Academy of Pediatrics stated that race is a public health issue and referenced its 2019 policy, which confirms that systemic violence requires a systemic response. Hate-based speech and violence also causes psychological harm, which has been members of the American Psychological Association. On May 29, 2020, the American College of Physicians asserted that, quote, individuals who commit such discriminatory acts and others with decision-making authority must be held for their own actions, end quote. On June 1st, 2020, LMSD released an email to parents about its awareness of a number of racist social media posts involving LMSD students that have recently surfaced. A separate written statement released by Super Copeland 2 days later further stated, these social media posts are unacceptable at any time, and that LMSD is committed to working to, quote, create a climate in our schools where every child feels supported, valued. Our expectation is that the Lower Merion Board of School Directors fulfill its duty to ensure that LMSD upholds its stated values. By doing so, LMSD will aid in combating racism, protecting the African American community from further harm, and reflecting the values of our community at large. We, on behalf of concerned LMSD parents and designated representatives of similarly concerned persons in Lower Merion, request that the school board of LMSD take swift and tangible action at its next regular business board meeting on Monday, June 8, 2020. We ask that the board vote to approve our short and long-term measures set forth below. We have reached out to the ADL of Philadelphia, and they stand ready to continue to help our school district. Our requests below are supported by the numerous emails sent to the board from members of the community at large requesting precisely the same measures. Short-term anti-hate requests. These are bulleted points. 1, require anti-racism Zoom training hosted by the ADL for all high school students before the end of the 2019-2020 academic year. The Anti-Defamation League of Philadelphia has graciously agreed to facilitate and provide appropriate versions of its No Place for Hate training. Next, amend the LMSD School District Handbook's Code of Student Conduct to include a new section entitled Eradicating Hate Policy to include the following new language. Engaging or encouraging the activities listed below will result in a minimum 10 to 15-day external suspension from all classes, both online and in person, a conference with parents, notification of police authorities, and the Pennsylvania Human Rights Commission of a potential hate crime and/or possible recommendation of expulsion. Use of racial, religious, or ethnic slurs in speech or in writing. Use of racial, religious, or ethnic slurs in social media posts. Hate speech or any kinds of acts of any kind, including but not limited to slurs, and the reenactment of traumatic occurrences of social and civil injustice on campus or on social media. And lastly, depictions of hate symbols, speech, or offensive acts on campus or on social media. Long-term anti-hate requests. First, require leadership committees dealing with issues of anti-racism and embracing diversity, for example, CARE, work with a variety of local organizations to determine the best path forward to provide peer leadership training, professional development training, and No Place for Hate projects that address racism and what is happening today in our community. Require current training and periodic refresher training for LMSD student-facing staff, including all teachers and counselors. Below is a list of experts in diversity and equity training with an anti-racist focus for the board to consider engaging for such in the event that Dr. Kara Doty is Barbara Moore Williams, proficiency / equity consultant, Portia Hunt, PhD psychologist and consultant, Aaron Trent Johnson, CEO of Community Equity Partners, Mecki, Director of the Center for Black Educator Development. Andrea Lawful Sanders, CEO of CAPES Educational Consultant. Require age-appropriate annual anti-racism and anti-hate training at the beginning of each academic year and at every Lmsb elementary and high school, not just the secondary school students. The ADL has graciously agreed to facilitate. Next, amend the Lmsb district handbook to include a new section entitled Eradicating Hate Policy to include the following verbiage, with portions adopted from the website of the Southern Poverty Law Center. When we witness, when we witness harassment, bullying, or bigotry, we must be upstanders, modeling courage, compassion, empathy, and civility. People of conscience, regardless of race or religious affiliation, sexual orientation, or gender identity, must stand up for what is right. Bystanders contribute to the problem. Upstanders help to stop it. Apathy is report all incidents of hate to school staff or a school administrator immediately. Provide consistent written messaging and notification of inappropriate incidents to all LMSD families. Immediately becomes aware of the same. Provide periodic written updates to LMSD families about planned staff and student LMSD training in the space for long term. Ensure that the next LMSD district superintendent has a track record of successfully implementing anti-hate policies and working to promote proficiency in a setting with similar racial demographics as LMSD. We ask for these things because, quite frankly, our African American students are now operating in an environment of fear and uncertainty about being exposed to these students. There's about another page to go. Should I continue to read, or are you just going to post to the?
And your
President
connection
Gilbert?
is really, your connection is
Yeah, I think we should. I think
bad.
we should post.
Yeah.
I think we should post it. So I think we've gotten the
I
main
apologize for the-
points, and I think we should post it. Are there other comments as well?
That was the last comment.
Okay, so I just want to take a moment to thank everyone who's written and everyone who has written in support of our students who have been showing leadership, have been leaders around the Black Lives Matters movement, as well as in ensuring, as part of that, ensuring that our schools are anti-racist. I think that while I appreciate some of the letters writers' interest in sort of like immediate policy changes, this is something that our policy committee requires a certain number of meetings, but we are really interested and willing. As I said at the very beginning, I think as Superintendent Copeland said, that we are looking to work with parents, family members, community members, as well as our students and staff to figure out how to do more. And it's very clear that not everybody knows what we are doing. We are in No Place for Hate School, for example. We have been engaging in much, in training and curriculum, as I said in the very beginning. And I also want to, again, make sure that people understand that Superintendent Copeland is a leader and an expert in this field. And we are fortunate to have him to help move us forward. So the board has been trying to think about the best way to continue to have these conversations to ensure that there's engagement, and we're forming an ad hoc committee at this time to get feedback from lots of different groups to ensure that we have these conversations and that we can move forward in a way that is, truly supportive of our students, because I think we are all very clear that we need to do more, we want to do more, and we really want to make sure that our students are the leaders in this and give us voice, although we have the responsibility obviously to make changes as the board and as the superintendent and as everybody else in this community. So we really appreciate everyone taking the time to join our students, to write in support of our students, to write in support of the things that we are engaged with, to try and dismantle white supremacy and engage in anti-racist educational policies and practices and everyday experiences for our youth. I think I'm sorry, Superintendent Copeland, did you want to add to that, or are we?
I think the board, the ad hoc committee is a good and proper place for a beginning, and we're looking to hear from wide segments of the population.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you. At this time, Mr. Roos, can you read the Sunshine Act meeting?
Yes. The board met in executive session prior to this meeting tonight, June 8th, regarding land development litigation.
Okay, thank you. Ms. LaPera, can you share the upcoming meeting
Yes.
dates?
We have a June 22nd special meeting of the board at 8 p.m. and the July 20th regular business board meeting at 8 p.m. And the following committee meeting will be held via Zoom at 8:30 a.m. All of our meetings will be Zoomed, unless otherwise noted. It's July 16th facilities purchasing meeting, and that is at 8:30.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ms. LaPera, and thank you very much for all of your help in actually making these meetings run smoothly. This has been quite a transition for us, as it has been for everyone else. So I just want to end by thanking everybody for, thanking our community and our students and our teachers and our staff and our administrators, and certainly Superintendent Copeland for guiding us through this, COVID crisis that has just really transformed education on literally overnight. I want to thank everybody for supporting the district and most importantly, our students in responding to the tumultuous few weeks we've had, and in reaffirming the district's support, the community's support rather, for the district to implement anti-racist policies and practices in our schools. And we hope everybody stays safe and please continue to stay involved. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.